As some of you know, I'm from Atlanta. And in the South, like in many other places in America, we drive everywhere. Heck, we drive from our front door down the driveway to the mailbox if we could. We love to drive. I drove everywhere every day from the moment I turned 16 until 9 years ago when I moved to New York. But cars back then were a little different. We're in this new era of cars, I think you could agree. We've got these self-driving cars these days. And these cars, they've got these radar sensors to see, they detect the lines on the road. They can see when objects are nearby or when vehicles are approaching, and like magic, they adjust without any intervention from you. You could literally take your hands off the wheel and the car would drive itself, right? Now, a little known fact, okay, it's an opinion, is that self-driving vehicles have been around for a long time. Some would say millions of years. Yes, we humans are the original self-driving vehicle. Okay, what do I mean by that? We, just like a Tesla, have a neural network that moves our bodies without any conscious interaction. We've got this area in the brain called the default mode network that switches on during passive tasks like resting or mind wandering. It's like an autopilot that kicks in whenever we disconnect from our surroundings or whenever we're undergoing a familiar activity like brushing your teeth or tying your shoes. It's like all of this is happening in the background and we're not even aware of it. That's why you can tie your shoes every day pretty easily without having to imagine the laces as tiny bunny ears. If you know, you know. In fact, 0.0005% of our brain processing is actually conscious awareness. So all of this is happening in the background. We're processing so much information in the background, and we only take note a very, very small percentage of time when it catches our attention. And now the implications of this could be as innocuous as not being present during your morning commute, or could lead to rumination, scattered minds, and even a feeling of not being in control. So now the science is cool and all, but there's still so much we have yet to understand about the mind. But what we do know is that the mind is a powerful machine that can be reprogrammed. So how do we get our default mode network, our autopilot, to work for us and not against us? How can we shift gears into a more intentional state of mind? Meditation can help. Studies show that meditation can lead to reduced default mode processing beyond that observed during an active task. So what that means is that it dampens those distractions and the mind wandering that happens when we're trying to stay focused on something. And by dampening those distractions, we have a little more space to make positive responses a habit for us. And in Tibetan Buddhism, we know that our thoughts are what we perceive our world to be. So garbage in our minds, garbage is all we'll see in our worlds, but vice versa as well. The beauty that we fill our minds with is the beauty that we experience. When I look back at the path that I've traveled in my life, I see that so much of it has been spent doing what's expected of me. No options, just doing because that's what a good girl does. Be nice to your siblings, eat all your food, do well in school, and immediately start working and making money. I only knew to do what was told to me. And life was fine. I did the school. I got the job. I made the monies. But I wasn't happy. And none of that inherently is bad. I still did the things, and I still do the things. But the difference is that I didn't feel like I had the agency or the intention behind those activities that I did. And I was only doing it because of external factors. It felt like I was walled up in my emotions, that I was reactive towards everything that came towards me. And every day was just a little gray, no matter what I filled it with. It felt like I was a wolf in sheep's clothing, pretending and living someone else's life and hoping that one day it would feel like my own. And then I found meditation. And for once, it felt like I knew myself. I could feel it in my bones that it was the beginning of something beautiful. And I began to start to see how my mind truly was. I started to chip away at those walls that I had built and started seeing small changes happen in my life. Now, I used to feel really self-conscious because I would hear all these stories of like magical, life-changing experiences that people would have, right? We've all heard them. The yoga class that changed our life, the meditation sit that we cried the whole time. And there's nothing wrong with those. Those are beautiful, magical experiences, but they may go away. And so that I realized that my life wasn't made of those extraordinary epiphanies, but rather a series of small encounters that led to a more habituated and embodied future. And so, as I now look back on my path, I see over years of contemplative practice how much I've grown, how far I've come, and yet I can also see the road ahead of me and all of the opportunities that I have for conscious change. We know that our lives are simply an expression of our karma, right? And that without intervention, we're hurdled along this path based on our past. So what are you going to do with that? Are you going to passively ride your karmic journey on autopilot? Or will you take the steering wheel and use meditation to change your life into one you've always dreamed of? And in the wise words of a teacher we all know,